Of everything in the canned food aisle, tomatoes are the single worst thing to buy in a can. And it has nothing to do with the tomatoes. It's the can. Tomatoes are highly acidic, and acid pulls chemicals out of the can's lining faster than almost any other food on the shelf. That lining is where BPA and its chemical cousins live, and they migrate straight into the red sauce you're about to pour over your family's dinner. The longer the can sits, the more leaches in. That pantry staple you stocked up on is quietly marinating in the one place you'd never think to check. And that's before we get to the label fraud. Right now, on shelves across America, there are cans stamped San Marzano, the most prestigious tomato name in the world, that contain ordinary domestic tomatoes firmed up with a chemical you'll recognize from a different aisle. When the Italian government audited hundreds of US shipments, most of them couldn't even be traced, and a huge share carried certification numbers that were expired or revoked. I pulled the lab testing, the fraud audits, the ingredient panels, and the ownership records. 9 canned tomato brands to avoid. And the #1 entry is a fake so sophisticated it fools the shoppers who think they're doing everything right. Quick thing before number 9. Everything here comes from Consumer Reports testing, EU fraud audits, and the actual ingredient labels. The stuff the can is built to keep you from checking. If you cook with canned tomatoes, subscribe, because after this, you'll never grab one the same way again. Now, number 9. Number 9. Great value diced tomatoes, Walmart. The cheapest can in the aisle, and with tomatoes, cheap has a specific meaning. Read the ingredient list on Great Value Diced, and you'll find more than tomatoes. Added citric acid and calcium chloride sitting right there alongside them. Here's why both matter. Tomatoes are already one of the most naturally acidic foods there is, so when a can adds citric acid on top, it's telling you the tomatoes inside weren't good enough to carry their own flavor and needed to be chemically sharpened. And calcium chloride? That's a firming agent. It's the reason diced tomatoes stay in stubborn little cubes that never break down, no matter how long you simmer them. The chemical is holding them rigid, so they survive rough mechanical processing. On top of that, this is budget canned tomato in a standard lining, which means the acidic contents are leaching whatever that lining is made of the entire time it sits in your pantry. Cheapest tomatoes, most additives, least oversight. But here's the thing. The trusted name brand can next to it, the one you actually reach for, plays almost the same trick. That's number 8. Number 8. Hunt's. This is the default, the red and white can that's been the real choice above the store brand for generations. Hunt's is owned by Conagra, one of the largest food conglomerates in the country, and the vine-ripened language on the front is doing a lot of quiet work. The ingredient reality. Hunt's canned tomatoes routinely include added citric acid, the same tell we just covered, a naturally acidic fruit that supposedly needs manufactured acid added back. And Hunt's has historically used standard can linings on a product that, because it's acidic tomato, is one of the fastest at pulling bisphenols out of that lining. So you're paying a name brand premium over great value for a can that runs the same citric acid playbook in the same category of leaching container. Vine ripened is a phrase on the front. The additives and the lining are the actual product. And the next brand up the shelf isn't just running the same playbook, it's a 139-year-old giant that just collapsed. Number 7. Number 7. Del Monte. Del Monte is the most recognizable canned goods name in America. 139 years old, the trusted staple in tens of millions of pantries. Here's the news almost nobody heard. In July 2025, Del Monte Foods filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, listing over $1 billion in liabilities, and put itself up for sale. That matters for what's in the can. When a legacy food company is $1 billion underwater and hunting for a buyer, every decision runs through one filter: cost. This is a company producing tomatoes under maximum financial pressure, which is the opposite of the environment that produces careful sourcing and clean ingredients. And Del Monte's tomato products lean on the familiar industrial toolkit: citric acid, and in the stewed and sauce varieties, added sugar to paper over flat tomatoes. Here's the part that connects the dots for the rest of this aisle. Del Monte also owns Contadina and S&W, two more tomato brands you probably thought were independent competitors. Same struggling parent, different labels. That's a pattern you're going to see again before this list is over. But first, one of those premium sister brands earns its own spot. Number 6. Number 6. Contadina. Contadina is positioned as the premium Italian-style option, the Roma tomatoes, the implication of something more authentic and carefully made than the standard can beside it. The name sounds like an Italian grandmother. The ownership is a bankrupt American conglomerate. As we just covered, Contadina is a Del Monte brand, same parent that filed Chapter 11 in 2025, same cost pressure running through the supply chain. The premium positioning is a shelf placement and a nice label, not a different formula. Contadina's tomato products still rely on the same additive approach as the mainstream cans, dressed in more Italian-sounding branding at a higher price. This is the exact trap that runs through the entire aisle, an evocative name and a rustic label doing the persuading, while the can behind it is industrial tomato with the standard additive load. Paying more for the idea of Italy is not the same as paying for Italy, which is a perfect setup for number 5, a brand that leans on family the way this one leans on Italian. Number 5. Red Gold and Tutoroso. Quick gut check. We're halfway, and the two biggest reveals are still ahead: the additive that turns your diced tomatoes into something that won't cook down, and the number 1 entry, a San Marzano fraud so good it beats the careful shopper. Hold on to both, because number 5 is the family farm tier. Red Gold and Tutoroso both market hard on heritage and family farm imagery, the wholesome American answer to the Italian brands. And the branding works, but the cans tell the usual story: added citric acid across much of the lineup, calcium chloride in the diced varieties doing the same rigid cube trick we saw at number 9, and standard linings on acidic product. The family imagery is real marketing, and the companies may well be family connected, but that says nothing about the additives in the can or the lining leaching into them. Family on the front of a tomato can is an emotional appeal, not an ingredient standard. And speaking of that calcium chloride, it's time to name the single most common mistake in this entire aisle. Number 4. Number 4. Any diced tomatoes across every brand. This one isn't a brand, it's a format, and it belongs near the top because almost everyone buys it without realizing what it does. Diced tomatoes are the single most chemically manipulated tomato product on the shelf. And here's the proof you've already seen with your own eyes. You know how diced tomatoes stay in firm little cubes no matter how long you simmer your sauce, while whole or crushed tomatoes melt down into an actual sauce? That is not a coincidence, and it is not the tomato. It's calcium chloride, a firming agent added specifically to keep the cubes rigid so they survive the dicing machinery and look neat in the can. It's doing exactly what it's designed to do, and fighting you the entire time you cook, because a sauce made from diced tomatoes never fully comes together. The fix is almost free. Buy whole peeled tomatoes and crush them by hand in the pot. 10 seconds of work, no firming chemical, and a sauce that actually breaks down the way it should. The convenience of pre-diced costs you both an additive and a worse result. Now, from here, the list turns to the most prestigious name in tomatoes and the most abused. Number 3. Number 3. Cento, certified San Marzano. Cento is the San Marzano most Americans actually buy, the widely available, certified can that feels like the affordable way to get the real Italian thing. There are two problems hiding behind that word, certified. First, the packaging. Cento has been flagged by the Environmental Working Group among the worst players for continuing to use BPA in its can linings. And remember, this is acidic tomato, the product that pulls bisphenols out of a lining faster than almost anything. Second, and more subtle, the word certified on a San Marzano can is not the same as genuine DOP protection. Authentic San Marzano carries the European Union's blue and yellow DOP seal and an official Consorzio San Marzano certification number printed on the can, a legal designation enforced by the Italian government. Certified on its own refers to a private third-party check that does not carry that legal force. It's a word chosen to sound like the real protection without being it. Cento's a real product, but between the BPA lining and the certified isn't DOP language, it is not what a lot of shoppers think they're paying premium money for. And if that's the sophisticated version of the San Marzano problem, number 2 is the shameless one. Number 2. San Marzano style, domestic fakes. This is the lazy fraud, and once you see it, you'll spot it on every shelf. Cans with San Marzano printed huge across the front, and then, in tiny letters you have to hunt for, the word style, or variety, or brand. Those little words are the entire scam. Under the actual DOP rules, real San Marzano must come exclusively from the Agro-Sarnese-Nocerino region near Naples, and it can only be sold whole, peeled, or in fillets. So a can that says San Marzano style, or that contains diced or crushed San Marzano, or that has an American flag on the back, is by definition not the real thing. There's a brand that got caught so squarely on this it reportedly had to rename itself to something that mashed San Marzano together with American, because the tomatoes were domestic the whole time. These cans are ordinary tomatoes, often firmed with calcium chloride. Priced up on the strength of a name they have no legal right to imply. The tell is dead simple. If it says style, or brand, or costs suspiciously little, it's not San Marzano. But the truly insidious fraud is the one that gets the shoppers who know all of this, and that's number 1. Number 1. Fraudulent DOP San Marzano, with cloned or expired certification. Here's why this earns the top spot. Everything up to now fools the casual shopper. This one fools the careful one. The person who learned to look for the DOP seal and the Consorzio number, did everything right, and still got scammed. In 2023, the Italian Ministry of Agriculture audited over 400 San Marzano shipments headed to U.S. retail. The results are staggering. Roughly 2/3 could not be traced at all through their supposed certification, and of the ones that could, a large share carried batch numbers matching certifications that were expired or had been outright revoked. Investigators have documented producers cloning a legitimate DOP certification number and stamping it onto uncertified cans, product that never touched the protected region, so the can passes a visual inspection and even a number check, while containing tomatoes grown who knows where. You looked for the seal, you found a number. The number was fake. That is the most complete betrayal in the entire aisle. A premium price, the exact certification you were taught to trust, and a lie underneath it. And it sits on top of the same problem every can shares. Acidic tomato leaching bisphenols out of the lining the whole time it waits in your pantry. So the answer isn't a better can. The answer is to change what you're buying entirely. Here are the 3 that are actually pure. Everything on that list came down to 3 failures: a leaching can, a chemically manipulated tomato, and a label that lied about origin. So the 3 real options each solve those at the source: clean packaging, 1 ingredient, and honesty about where the tomato came from. Number 1 is so clean it's almost boring, and that's exactly the point. Here they are. Best option number 3, POMI. The simplest fix for the biggest problem on this list is to get rid of the can entirely, and POMI does exactly that. POMI sells its tomatoes in a shelf-stable carton, not a metal can. which means there is no metal lining for the acidic tomato to leach anything out of. The entire bisphenol question that hangs over every other product in this video simply does not exist here. And the ingredient list matches the packaging. Pommi's strained and chopped tomatoes are just that, tomatoes. No added citric acid, no calcium chloride, no sugar, no natural flavor, just tomatoes in a carton, at a completely accessible price in ordinary grocery stores. It's not a fancy product, and it's not trying to be Italian heritage in a box. It's the easiest, cheapest way to remove the two biggest risks on this list, the leaching lining and the additive load, in one move. If you change one thing after this video, this is the lowest effort version of it. But if you want organic and you want it verified, number 2 goes further. Best option number 2, Eden Foods Organic Tomatoes. Eden is the brand that solved the can problem before the rest of the industry would even admit there was one. Back in 1999, more than 25 years ago, Eden Foods became the first U.S. canner to eliminate BPA from its linings, while everyone else spent the next decade arguing about whether BPA mattered. Their linings are now verified, free of BPA, BPS, and phthalates, and independent Consumer Reports testing measured Eden's products at roughly 1 part per billion of BPA, while other canned brands registered levels many times higher. The ingredients are just as disciplined. Eden's organic tomatoes are organic tomatoes, no added citric acid, no calcium chloride, no sugar, sourced from certified organic U.S. family farms. Eden has publicly explained that it refuses processing aids like calcium chloride, even though it wouldn't legally have to disclose some of them, and accepts a slightly less cosmetically perfect product as the price of leaving the chemicals out. That is the exact opposite of every philosophy on the avoid list. It costs more than the industrial cans. What you're buying is a verified safe lining and an ingredient list that's just tomato. And the number 1 pick removes the last remaining question mark entirely. Best option number 1, Jovial Organic Tomatoes. Jovial wins because it closes every gap on this list at once: the packaging, the ingredients, and the thing not even the good brands usually do. It tests the finished product and shows you the results. Start with the package. Jovial's tomatoes come in glass jars. Like Pommi's carton, glass means zero lining, zero bisphenol leaching, no metal touching the acidic tomato at all, and unlike a carton, you can see exactly what you're buying before you open it. The ingredients are organic Italian tomatoes and organic tomato juice, nothing added, no citric acid, no calcium chloride, no sugar. Then the part that sets it apart. Jovial actively tests its tomatoes for glyphosate residue and publishes the results, rather than just holding an organic certification and stopping there. Almost no brand in this category tests the finished product and shows you the numbers. Jovial does. The honest trade-off is real. Glass is heavier, more fragile, and it costs more than a can. What you get for it is the single cleanest combination available on the American market. Pure organic tomatoes, in packaging that can't leach, from a company transparent enough to publish its own lab data. One last thing, and it's the whole video in a sentence. With canned tomatoes, the danger is split between the can and the label. The lining leaches, and the front lies. So do 2 things, and you'll never get caught. First, get out of the can when you can. Glass like Jovial, or a carton like Pommi, removes the leaching problem completely. Second, read the ingredient list and demand it be short. Tomatoes, tomato juice, maybe salt. If you see citric acid or calcium chloride, the tomatoes weren't good enough on their own. And if you're chasing real San Marzano, remember the only proof that counts: the blue and yellow DOP seal, a consortio certification number printed on the can itself, and whole peeled tomatoes only, never diced or crushed. Everything else is a costume. Pommi, Eden, and Jovial don't need one. Now you know how to read the aisle in the 10 seconds it takes to flip the label and check the package. If this changed how you'll shop, subscribe. The next pantry staple I'm breaking down is one you're almost certainly buying wrong too.